Hey guys, it's Sam Stein here at the Bulwark. I'm with two of the best, Sonny Bunch. Well, one of the best, Sonny Bunch and Marc Caputo.
Yeah. We're not sending our best.
No, we're not. We're here to talk about JD Vance. I've convened this council because I want to discuss why JD Vance is so online. I don't quite understand it, but I have a feeling that there's some strategy to it, and then there's some psychology to it. And so I brought two people who are semi-online, one of whom has a distinguished history of online behavior. I'll let you guess. Let's start with you.
Sonny
Let's
is just
let's
Sonny
start
is
with
just a terror online, man.
Sonny here because first of all, I want to just sort of get your observations. JD Vance is, I believe, 39 years old, right? I think that's
Yes,
40.
he's
Turned 40 in August.
So JD Vance kind of came up in this world, politically speaking, where everything was online. And my suspicion is that this is a product of breeding. Like this is all he knows. This is the politics he knows. This is the communication skills he knows. But Sonny, I want to get your thoughts on this and sort of if there's something deeper that I'm missing here that you think is more cultural.
No, I mean all right, so like I said, he's I think he's a year younger than I am. So we are basically essentially the same age and came up reading a lot of the same things. Reading the same blogs, right? We were there when Twitter was born, are on email listservs and that sort of thing. Like there's a whole ecosystem that kind of exists that we grew up in. I remember his blog role was like Andrew Sullivan,
right,
and Matt Iglesias.
Yeah.
And I was like, I read them. That was also where I got my nonsense from. And there's an entire culture of the internet. Like if you go and listen to some of those podcast interviews and hear the way he talks about things, talking about like female fertility and like weird tics of language, he is very much in the, I don't know, the NRX movement. I don't know how to describe it exactly. The reactionary,
let's take a
like
step
online
back.
reactionary.
Let's take a step back because I want you and I to talk about this, and Marc can contribute to too. But like 2006 to 2012 was like a very interesting time in terms of media. You had this kind of explosion of online outlets that were propping up, defined by Andrew Sullivan, as you noted, HuffPost on the Democratic side, liberal side, there's HuffPost, Talking Points Memo, Matt Iglesias. You had the whole juice box mafia crowd. You had on the Republican side, a number of outlets that were kind of experimenting in online journalism. Maybe a little bit less so, I think, than the liberal side. I think the liberal side kind of came first into that universe. But then you kind of had a reaction, whereas NRO, Front Forum, you had those types of outlets that were coming online, and then obviously Free Beacon broke out, was doing its own reporting. This was kind of an interesting time period journalistically that Vance was swept up in, I think.
Well, in 2006 to 2012, that specific period you mentioned is when a lot of the like stuff that had started in blogs goes kind of mainstream, right? Like that's when The Atlantic is hiring guys like Andrew Sullivan, or like Ta-Nehisi Coates has a blog, Meghan McArdle has a blog over there, Ross Douthat has a blog over there. Yeah. Like it's a very interesting moment in the mainstreaming of all this, which again, like say what you will about all of it. I think it was mostly good. I think it was mostly for the good, but also that's because that's where
that's how you and I developed.
Yes, I'm pro things I like being mainstream. Well, that's good.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like it was a very argumentative type, not argumentative. Well, some of argumentative.
Argumentative, yeah. I think
and it was also like
long form.
Heavy on
people. Yeah, they wrote so long.
They wrote long. It was a lot of takes. It was a lot of people with conviction. Maybe certainly less reported pieces, more sort of like analytical. And I think that kind of shaped things for him. I mean, it certainly shaped things for me. I imagine when you have that as kind of your source, those are the sources you rely on, you're kind of bred into this idea that you can be combative online, that's the way you interact, right?
Yes, I think 100%. And also, look, I mean, this is also just kind of the native language of the internet, right? The native language of the internet is let's fight about this online, right? It's how you get it's why
I feel
Twitter
seen.
it's why Twitter exploded once they introduced the quote tweet, right? Like that is the thing that drove so many arguments
Is that it?
on Twitter. Well, it's
I did
one
not
of
know
the things.
that. Okay.
It's one of the things. The changing from the manual retweet to the quote tweet function has had enormously consequential ramifications throughout history. But and then look, and then you have Donald Trump, who is the first natural born poster, right? Poster being like
not just poster,
the guy who posts. He's the Walter White of posting. I am the one who posts, and like. Trump is a psychopath in many ways, but one of the very specific ways is like he is an extremely online person. He understands the nature of the medium better than any other person in this role has. And I do think that he sees a little bit of that in JD Vance, and that's one of the reasons he is attracted to him, is because he is also, I don't know. He like JD Vance was born in the dark, right? He's the guy who was like born into this world of the
Trump
online
adopted it,
persona. And again, the world that JD Vance was running in, guys like Peter Thiel and and that whole crew, they have their own kind of separate little world of online stuff that is kind of interesting and bizarre. And again, a lot of this shows up in his interviews when he is talking about how he talks about things, reveals, I think, a lot.
Mark, let's bring you in here. The strategic element of this, obviously, Sonny notes like Trump is a pugnacious guy. Do they just want Vance to echo that and do the same?
No, Vance kind of operates on his own kind of time and space, and he just kind of does what he does. This was asked a while ago when we first did the first iteration of the Haitian cat eating reacts. It was me, you, and
yes, I remember
Tim
this.
Miller. And Tim had asked, like, is this strategic or is this just posting? And I was like, it's posting. Then the strategy or the fallout comes afterward. But I think increasingly you're just seeing JD Vance is growing more comfortable just kind of being who he wants to be, both on the campaign trail and on social media, especially on Twitter. I mean, increasingly you're seeing him kind of like have arguments and reply guys. Now he's not just replying to like, someone like, at Hellraiser bunch of numbers, but he is just sort of letting it rip and letting it fly. From what I understand, he is having a good time. It does kind of look like it. He's having, and I call him kind of DeSantis style press conferences where he's just standing up after he gives a speech, has an event. He's at the podium. He's on the podium. He's at the lectern, and he takes questions from the media, but he's got a Greek chorus behind him that, applauds him and jeers the press. DeSantis really sort of pioneered that, or really embraced that about 2 years ago. And Vance is taking like a fish to water on that, but he's also done the same thing on social media. It's a very kind of similar.
Yeah, no, I mean, he quote tweeted me the other day when I was writing about his comments on creating stories. Whatever.
There's also a Haitian cat, right?
Yeah. But it was curious to me. It's like, on the one hand, it's like he's running for vice president. Like, what doesn't he have other things to do, right? Like, I mean, just feels like. I mean,
I'm sorry to take issue with that. Well, we always pretend that these politicians are sitting there and reading all the pages of legislation.
I just assume he's running from event to event. And
but what's to stop someone from shitposting? Like, that's a great thing about shitposting. You can do it from a toilet, right? Or whatever. There is an asymmetry, certainly in the way, and it's very clear that the Trump campaign talks about facts, which in many cases aren't facts. Like, there's no evidence that Haitians are out there eating cats. And the way in which Kamala Harris's campaign is talking about facts, like, is Project 2025 really Trump's agenda? Right? That's kind of disputable. He says it's not. But the reality is at least JD Vance is out there interacting with people in the press. Like, Kamala Harris is kind of all for Micah right now. It's very controlled.
I'm pro. Just to be clear, I'm pro interaction. I don't mind being quote tweeted by JD Vance. I just
exactly. I mean,
a little bit low hanging fruit
taking
here.
Questions from the press. I mean,
all right, Sonny, go ahead.
Somebody, one of you guys asked, is it strategic or is it posting, and I think they're but it's both. These are not mutually exclusive things. The strategy is the posting. This is why, JBL had a newsletter. I think it was earlier this week. The weeks are all running. Every day is running together at this point for me in the cycle. But I'm pretty sure it was this week where he said he thinks that the Haitian cat dog story is good for Donald Trump, even if it's total nonsense bullshit. Because here's why it's good for him. It's good because it takes all of the focus off of debates, real issues, and it puts it on Donald Trump, and it puts it on people talking about immigrant crime. This is what it's not like, it doesn't matter that it's not real. And this is why I say that it's both strategic and it's posting. Mm-hmm. You post in order to, because that is the strategy. You post because it distracts people and because it gets them arguing. It gets them, you're going through, instead of working on a story or whatever, you're going through JD Vance's replies and being like, why is he talking to Zayed Jalani? What is happening here? What is going, why? Like, it used to be true that Twitter was not real life, or at least it used to be true that Twitter was a very small portion of real life. Twitter is not real life. That was a thing we always used to say. Mm-hmm. And it is less true now than it has been since, I don't know, the end of...
You think Twitter's more real life now?
I think there is a greater... I think Twitter has been more closely correlated with life anytime we are dealing with Donald Trump. And even though he's not even really on Twitter anymore, even though it's, he's on Truth Social and whatever, like the years when Twitter was most like real life was 2016 to 2020, where everybody was dealing with that stuff every day. All day, and we are getting closer to that again, and the closer we get to that, the better it is for Trump. I know people hate hearing this. People are like, but it's bad that he's a liar. He's getting called out for the lies. He's getting fact checked, and like, I'm sorry, we all lived through this. We all already lived through this, and we're doing it again. And if you can't recognize that, you are doomed.
In Kamala Harris's defense, though, she's not committing the errors of the Clinton campaign with that, by just swinging at every pitch from Trump and attacking him for everything. Like, they've been a little more strategic in the way in which they're counterpunching.
Well, that actually brings up today. Like the Kamala Harris HQ account posts some clip of Vance kind of scurrying off to, looks like a nurse, I don't know what it was, like a nursing unit, whatever. He's being asked about Marc Robinson. He just
Marc Robinson, modern Republican MAGA hero, Marc Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, he doesn't comment about it. And so they post some sort of edited clip. It makes it look like he's ducking.
Hi, Senator Vance. Do you have any reaction to Marc Robinson news? Senator Vance?
And Vance just can't resist. And he responds to the video and he's like, I'm not ducking, my kid got me sick, and by the way, you've caused inflation. And it's just like, I get it on the one hand, fight, get in the arena and fight the fight, but on the other hand, there is the Streisand effect. You're just kind of drawing attention to these things that they want you to draw attention to. So I do feel like there is a downside to this hyper engaged persona that he has.
Probably. I mean, there's a little bit of both, but maybe tie goes to the runner, or at least in the case of Vance, he's being his sort of authentic self, which is, swinging at every pitch and being.
He is swinging at every pitch, yeah. And maybe they've calculated you'll hit one.
Yeah.
He's swinging at it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's kind of the Wayne Gretzky rule. You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And the reality is like that Robinson.
I believe that's the Michael Scott rule, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. We'll bet a beer on that. But the reality is the fallout from Robinson. I mean, that guy is genuinely as we called him the other day, a perverted Louis Farrakhan. I mean, whoever thought you would see a candidate for governor or any sort of position who said those sorts of perverse, racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic remarks. It's just kind of really, really remarkable. So you may as well just give his point of view and say, well, here's where I am on this. And, oh, yeah, inflation is bad.
Yeah. Let's leave with a larger topic, which is Twitter itself. It's we all sort of are addicted to it and we're on it and we follow it for news. And despite it being, what it is, we have not, everyone was like, oh, I'm leaving Twitter when Elon took over. No one's left Twitter. Right? It's is this just where we are and who we are and what we're going to be? And The other thing is like, why has no one ever been able to like properly build a decent competitor? Like Threads is fine.
Threads could have been it, but
yeah,
Threads could have been it. But what Meta decided to throttle political content.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, is that it? So we're just stuck with this, and that's just the way it's going to be.
And there's the network effect. We're all already here. So it would be one thing if there was it'd be one thing if there was like you have one place to go, but there wasn't one place to go. There was Threads, there was Mastodon, there was Blue Sky, there was Threads is fine. I post some things on Threads. You can find me at Threads, but like it's not a useful thing because as Marc said, they made a conscious decision. They were like, we don't want to be the political place. We don't want to be the place you go for your politics Twitter replacement. And like, okay, well, that's what I use it for. So what am I doing here then?
Yeah. And I guess Vance basically is just like us, right? Like he's just going to engage in the place where everyone is.
Yes.
Vance is increasingly, I think, taken a leadership role at the campaign. I mean, right from the get-go, when he was picked, he was the one who came up with the idea of like, okay, let's point out that she's ducking the press. Okay, let's point out the fact that Walz has made these various statements about his military service and record that might not be true. And then Walz was the one who injected the cat eating thing into the dialogue. He's increasingly sort of taking on a role at the campaign of not just chief surrogate, but sort of a strategist. And I think partly that reflects the fact that the campaign has been very reactive and not very proactive in its messaging. It's just basically like a series of pitched battles that occur around Donald Trump's events and whatever JD shit posts, and then whatever the Kamala Harris campaign throws at them, right? I mean, it's like,
no, that's true. We're having two, and it's weird because it used to be that Trump was the guy on the platform doing all this shit, and he's not there, and so now it's like, well, JD is the kind of surrogate for him. Or the
Truth Social is still. I mean, you go over.
Yeah,
there,
but I know it's weird. He's posting in this other universe, and it kind of leaks into our universe.
Right.
But we're not on that universe, and so it doesn't feel as visceral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's not as seen.
Yeah, I guess not. All right, guys, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. Sonny, Marc, have a great weekend.
I think we lost Sonny in election. I think he's scrolling Twitter.
Nah, he's waiting to get. He wants to get quote tweeted by Vance like that. All right, hey, and thank you guys for tuning into our this video, and please subscribe to the Bulwark YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Sonny, Marc, take care, guys.